FashionGHANA.com. TV.
Okay, so who do we have here?
Bri Wireduah.
So who is Bri Wireduah and what do you do?
Bri Wireduah is a fashion designer, very Afrocentric, very I like to use the word eclectic. I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do, and I have like a diverse interest, diverse thing that I'm good at. I don't do just fashion, but I have other side stuff that I've been dallying into on the side nowadays.
Let's hear, what are those things?
I like to keep them under wraps, but basically fashion design. I have other stuff that I've been dabbling my hands in, like on the side. We'll hear about those ones later.
Okay, so how is being a fashion designer going for you in Ghana as a career?
As a career, it's been good. It could be better. It's been good. Yeah, I can't complain. It's been good. It could be better. But I've realized that our industry has gotten to a point where I think there's been too much of an influx on one aspect of the industry, and there's so many other aspects of the industry that's lying waste, that's not getting tended to. So like we need to like have a look at this whole thing as a whole and know how best to put the industry in its proper place to have it moving smoothly.
So before we carry on, what is this one part of the industry that has gotten that much attention? Yeah,
because we see schools churning out so many different young designers every single year, and every single one of them wants to be a designer. And I don't know whether they're not being taught and they're not aware, or whether they don't realize that there are other options. There's so much more to fashion than saying I'm the fashion designer and I want to be the fashion. There's so many different aspects. There are pattern makers, there are fashion illustrators, there are people who just do styling, there are people who just probably just work as consultants, they're buyers. There's so much. There's so much in the industry. There are those who do textiles. There are those who do it like this. It's a really huge industry. And when it comes to Ghana, everybody's just focusing, I want to be the designer. And because of that, they're not having the room to be able to grow and to flourish, because they're all chasing one thing. And the industry is already saturated, so it makes it harder for them to be able to thrive. And they end up following and copying the same thing, the same trend, and they're not able to have their own identity as designers. Okay,
so let's say they go into pattern cuttings and being buyers, and where is the work for them? Who employs these people?
Well, at the moment, because there isn't actually, we don't have these things, a designer has to end up doing all of these things together as one. But if we had people offering these services, I believe the designers who are overburdened, overworked would actually want to hire them.
So then, can't there be, because we have the schools, you know, that are making all these designers. There's Rios, there's Joyce Ababio, there's you name it. And then you have yourselves who, according to your words, might be willing and ready to employ these, what do you call it, these other resources or these other talents. So why not have a group of designers? I don't know if it has to go through a designer association or whatever. Go to the schools and say, look, we want to propose employment on our behalf for people who can be trained in this field.
It could work. It could work.
Do you think we'd need an association for that kind of stuff, or?
Yes, to make the whole thing, to give it structure. Because it can't just be all up in the air like that. So yes, if there's an association like that, we could give it some structure. Maybe they could start with internships on their holidays and stuff like that. So by the time they've been out of school, they actually know what they're doing, and then it could work. It could work.
So basically, you feel like this particular item is stifling the industry. Like there's not much of a Ghanaian industry because everyone is a designer.
Everyone is a designer.
But then not everyone's going to succeed.
Well, there's that too. There's that too. And then it doesn't really affect those who have already established themselves, because they're already established, but it's those who are now coming in. They're the ones who are going to struggle a lot until they find. And I believe some of them failed to succeed because of this very same issue.
Yeah.
If there were more opportunities, they could have found their niche elsewhere and could be succeeding and thriving there, because they're all chasing the same golden goose, and nobody ends up winning in the long run.
So you feel like when you see these people, do you feel like you're wasting time? Because we've got like Rio School, which graduates 70 students every 6 months.
Every 6 months, yes.
So that's almost 150.
And 40, 50-ish, yeah.
No, almost. I know it's 120, but I'm just saying, upwards every month. But then most of these people are a lot of times they just end up being tailors, and there's still a lot of market for tailors, in certain neighborhoods, in certain rural areas, even on some high streets. There's still a lot of business for them. It might not be so lucrative, but people are always wearing clothes. So and then when it comes to like tailors and things, there'll always be that opening for them. But I think that they don't want to be a tailor working for somebody else. They want to work for themselves. So somebody's already established, they already have their clients, they already have the bigger productions who may need these people to employ them as tailors, but they wouldn't want to, like, oh, I've been to school, I wouldn't want to go and work for anybody. Then now we have these wayside tailors who are just probably not even trained professionally. They are the ones who end up benefiting because they are open to working for somebody. So they end up getting employed or absorbed into this fashion house, and they end up getting trained on the job, and then they're able to at least make something for them. When you have these professionally trained students out of schools and they can't really find their feet or find enough work because they don't want to be branded as a tailor, because they think it's like degrading. They think that fashion designer is all like cool and chic, but at the end of the day, that's not what it is. So which one are you? Are you a tailor or are you a
I'm a fashion designer. I don't care if you call me a tailor. It doesn't bother me.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me. I tell people call me seamstress, tailor. It doesn't bother me.
Cool and chic. So what's the difference between a designer and a tailor, according to you?
A tailor knows how to sew and can execute a design perfectly well. A fashion designer it's beyond that. You need to be able to know how to illustrate. You need to be able to make patterns. You need to be able to understand the whole concept of design right from scratch, to be able to conceive a design, able to sketch it out, take care of the mood boards, the fabrics, all those things. Be able to put a collection together. That makes you a designer. A tailor can't put together a collection. They might, but you wouldn't. It would miss certain elements. They could just sew a bunch of clothes, but it's not just sewing a bunch of clothes. It's about it having a story. It's about it having flow. It's about it having a certain concept towards it. So I think that's the basic difference between like a tailor and a fashion designer. So basically, what you're saying is that a tailor can make the clothes, and then the designer brings in the creativity. Exactly.
Okay. So I always say this. I say this, that we have in Ghana, we have designers. Moving past the tailor versus designer, I still think there's another battle, and this is designers versus fashion designers. When we say a fashion designer, obviously the word designer is very broad. So when we say a fashion designer, people automatically relate it to clothes. But when I say a fashion designer, I look at the word from the angle of fashion being a trend, fashion being something that's popular, fashion being something that people follow. Exactly. So when I say a fashion designer, I mean someone who is making something that a large number of people in the public are following, which is fashion.
Exactly.
I don't feel we have many fashion designers. I don't even know if we have fashion designers in Ghana. I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of designers doing very talented stuff, very amazing stuff, like couture, like ready to wear, using the right prints, plain colors, everything. But I don't know if there's a designer in Ghana that has a large number of people that when they put out something, you'd be walking and you see someone wearing it. Yeah,
if you put it that way, yes, yeah. But like I believe it stems from the fact that we don't really set trends around here. we import all our trends. So there isn't that room for anybody to be able to be that trendsetter, like how you have in the West, where a mannequin put out a t-shirt and then it's just going like that. Here we rather import trends from the West, so it makes it a little more difficult for a designer here to be able to make that same impact.
Yeah. And even when we even talk about the designers, like even when we rewind back to the tailor versus the designer stuff, a lot of the so-called designers here, most of the clothes they're making are people who are bringing them their fabrics and saying, hey, can you do this for me in this style? And to me, when I hear designers doing that, I'm like, that's not what designers do. That's what tailors do. Because as a designer, you are supposed to say, look, well, let's say if you're in France, I'm Jean de la whatever. Over here, I'm Akosia de la whatever. This is a beautiful concept. I'm going to do it, and people are going to walk in and they'll love it because I'm a designer. I'm specialized in designing. Most of the people here that have big names are actually doing customized stuff for people. You don't walk into Gucci and say, oh, I like these shorts, but I want them longer. Or hey, this shirt is great, but if you can cut this off. No, you walk in there and you see a design and you be like, that's a Gucci design, I'm buying it. I feel like we haven't reached that point where we have designers who are very confident in their collections and they're just throwing it out there and selling it as it is. I think majority of the creatives here are actually making what people come to them and say, hey, can you do this for me? And then they do it. And I feel that puts them a few steps into the box of being a tailor more than a designer. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I agree to some extent, but I'd say that the reason why it is because of they're conforming to the way things are. We have a totally different system here. Most people would not understand. They want things done a certain way. So even when they see your collection that you put out, they want this design from your collection. But again, I want it tweaked this way. And if you don't tweak it that way for them, then they don't want to patronize. So designers end up having to concede to that just to be able to have their stuff going. Oh, I like this design of yours. Then again, I want to change this, I want to change that. I want to customize this about it. So we end up doing that for them just to be able to make sure that we get the business. And then it continues in that cycle. But when people actually come to understand, then I believe that things could go the way that it's supposed to go. People don't understand that concept here. You can't tell them that, oh, they just will not understand. And I believe that designers have conceded to that just because they want to be able to carry out that business aspect and not lose the business that would be coming to them.
FashionGHANA.com.
TV.
I came to slave, 100%
African.
fashion.